Well, okay, it looks like we've made it to the very finish line of this project. All we got to do is stumble across the finish line, do a couple more things to it, and then it will be ready for submission and grading. Okay, so dusting off that last little piece right there, checking out what we're doing here. The letter E, we've done it before numerous times already. Purple on top, orange on the bottom. We're going to finish that up. Finished up these characters in the last session. So, once we're done with this, this may only take a few minutes here, and then may be able to talk about grading, and there will be a video on how to grade your artwork also. So I'm going to start out with this orange. Actually, I am not. I'm going to start out with the violet, in fact, because it's at the top of all this, and after all this, I don't want to mess up now. So letter E, we're going to finish up with this violet, which was giving me fits a couple sessions ago. It was snapping off constantly, and had to fight with it a bit. However, no more. So Violet and I have made up, and we are getting close to the finish line here. And it's funny that I got this violet on violet right there, so I don't have to be so picky with it. Now this is a different story up here on the violet against the peach. But right here, that's easy coloring right there. Now I can see some of my work showing through in the previous one right here, some of my layout work when I drew it, and I'm not real pleased with that, but I would have to accept it at this point because the project's almost over with, and in order to fix it I might have to really do some radical things to fix it, meaning I'd probably have to cut that square out, flip it over, tape it back in, redraw it, and color it again. And that would really not be a good thing. It would look bad for one thing. Secondly, it would have caused me to do an additional character, thus making this 25 characters, which is hard enough to get through 24 of them. So it's going to have to be fine with the flaws and all of its other qualities as well. So getting a perfect score on a piece of artwork is a rarity, and that would be a 10. Everything in art class is done on a 0 to 10 scale. People seem to be able to get their minds around 0 to 10 scale. Now just because we're at the end of this, that doesn't mean slack off and do sloppy work. So that's the time to really exercise some patience and not get crazy just because you're close to the end. Alright. So we're going to be here in just a few minutes, once this letter E is completely colored down there. We're going to be picking out a dark color to outline this with, and I'm thinking probably, if you've got your own black colored pencil, you should probably use black. If you were in the physical classroom, of course, then you'd probably want, I'd encourage you to use any color but black. The 6th graders need the black for more than just the design project. They also need it for their drawing project. So I would discourage the use of it in the physical classroom. However, if this is a makeup lesson, or if you are participating in this as distance learning or e-learning or virtual classroom, you can call it a lot of different things, well, then you may have your own black colored pencil there at hand, and in that case you can use it if that's what you would like to do. Now if you're a 6th grader, we've already talked about that in a 6th grade video. It does in fact get outlined with black, since that is one of the colors in their alphabet. Okay, it looks like I'm going to have to sharpen up my violet here before I run out of square. Okay, I got to be gentle with this. It's been breaking off constantly. I think I got a bad colored pencil, whether it got dropped or somehow mishandled, and it was breaking off up inside the pencil, wooden portion of the pencil. But it seems to have been fixed up now, so I'm getting better better mileage out of it. Now we're going to be using probably, you know, the violets get used up a lot in this particular project. People like purple, and they get short, and so I've used, probably as a 7th grade color goes, magenta and purple are the most frequent colors that I have used. I would have to really carefully look at my artwork. There's quite a bit of that tan in there, but it's been a little while since we've seen any tan. A couple of them all the way back up in here, in fact. Seems like a year ago now. But I really am pleased with the opacity of the colors. This violet right here is looking really, really good on the projector and on the camera. So it's got a really, really nice, very dense bluish quality to it, extremely opaque. It's very attractive. And since this message ends with the letter O, no, excuse me, the letter E, I'm talking about orange, and the last color that I'm going to put in is going to be orange, that will work out for me, because that will give me a place down here to sign my name where it will be visible in a dark color. And so that's a good thing. So let's go to the orange right here, which still amazingly has some left on it. And I'm going to move myself around so I can get at this. And I'm going to start. Ooh, that orange is wobbly. I can feel it. So I'm going to have to be careful with it. It won't let me go too fast, that's for sure. So I'll just have to be patient, I guess. And I guess this is not the time to get impatient after all these days of work and effort. It would be a bad thing to mess it all up now. So in our next unit we're going to start, of course, with some lecture, meaning I'm going to have you take down notes, and that should take a day or two. In the 7th grade we do a lot of drawing exercises in our drawing notes, and so it's not all just writing down words and terminology. A great deal of it, about half of it in fact, is drawing exercises, and we will be using those drawing exercises when we make our drawing for our project, which we will also do much the same way that this project was done. I will draw it with you, and then you will draw along with me, and then when it's all over with, when we have the entire project drawn out, then we will assess it or evaluate it, meaning grade it. And so we'll have to have a quiz at the end of that unit. Every unit starts with lecture and notes, then we go to a project, and then we have a quiz and we grade the projects and also other work. The notes are graded in the physical classroom, and I'm anticipating that they will also be graded in the e-classroom as well. There's a great deal of self-grading that goes on in visual art, and that's appropriate because art is very subjective. That means it doesn't necessarily have clear-cut right and wrong answers, especially when it comes to doing projects or evaluating the beauty of someone else's work. Now, after many years, you get pretty good at evaluating work, but it's not so easily done. And so, because it is subjective, there is a important role for self-evaluation, meaning self-grading in this case. So I do self-grading with the students, and as long as I believe that they are being honest, and there is a rubric for how we grade ourselves and our work habits and our projects and our notes, okay, so all of that is self-grading. And if I think that you are being honest with yourself, being honest with your instructor, which would be me, and honest with the people around you when it comes to the grades of your work, grades of your projects, grades of your work habits, well, then I'm accepting of that, and you've earned my respect, and that's the grade that you will get. If, on the other hand, you really don't work very hard, and you're not keeping up with the projects, and you're not doing well on the quizzes, well, then that will also affect the outcome of your grades in art class. In the physical classroom, about 1/3 of the class never completely finishes a project because of absenteeism many times, a lack of effort many times, a complete misunderstanding of what is going on, and a failure to seek help. Simply just not doing the project, talking a great deal and just not getting the project done, poor work habits, bad use of class time. So these are reasons why people don't get the projects done. Oh, my pencil lead came out just at the very end of all of this. So, and also spending all your time sharpening colored pencils is also a bit of a problem here, I've noticed. So that bothers me sometimes. But this time I'm going to finish this one up because we're about done with this project. And this colored pencil, now I lost my sharpener down in there. There we go. Okay, this colored pencil is going to finish the project for us. Calling it off the bench. Alright. Now I may have to go back and dress up some parts of my project that have previously, so where I taped it down on the corners, that's a bit of a situation that I have to address. Usually it will pull some of the tape, will pull some of the colored pencil off of the piece of artwork, and so it has to be touched up a bit. Okay, it looks like we're closing in on the very, very finish. It's like a marathon almost. What we're going to do is turn in our chip and we'll be done. Pick up our t-shirt and get ready to get home. That's how we would do it at a race, at a marathon. Get your medal for finishing. Okay, I gotta peel this up, color in that little piece, scrap of orange right there. Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, I'm gonna tape that back down for the moment. Okay, let's see what we've got there. It looks fantastic. It spells out an ounce of prevention is greater than a pound of cure. So now we're getting ready to finish this all up. I'm going to set my colored pencils down. In this whole thing, I don't think I used any gray in the entire project, did I? Or I may have, but I didn't have it it wasn't one of the letters here. So I'm going to use the gray colored pencil to outline this with. So I'm going to get a good working point on it. Now, a few years back, we were having some problems with what was happening was that shapes like this and this would come together and no one could distinguish that as an individual letter of its own. So people were saying they were having difficulty being able to read the message. And so, believe it or not, a 7th grader came up with the idea of just outlining between all of the letters in order to have it show up more as a message rather than just a bunch of strange disconnected shapes. And that was a good idea, so we did it. Now here's how this gets tricky. You have to lay this ruler right on that line that separates these two squares. But then we have to back it up just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, almost imperceptibly. Now my advice is that you test it before you draw with it. And in this case it looks like I'm on the line I want to be on there. I'm on the line down here, so you got to hold it down firmly, and then it takes probably about 3 passes with the colored pencil to get a good dense outline. Now you have to be very careful. If you don't hold this ruler down firmly, it will skid and you will make a mess of this artwork that you've spent so much time creating. So that's a good dense outline. We're just going to continue this. Now I've got the dot for the period and the abbreviation of ounce up there. I'm going to try not to draw through it. I'll have to outline that in black since I've chosen to use gray as the color for my outlining here. Okay, now you should test it before you start drawing with it just to make sure it lands on that line and it doesn't end up in the previous square, kind of like that one is wanting to do. So we want a nice dense gray I'm using gray. If you're using black, that's up to you, or any other dark color, but we want a nice dense line that separates these two rows. Let's see what we got. That looks pretty good. It's hard to see it up there because it's right on top of that violet, but down here you can tell. We'll do the same thing again. So people, oh man, don't let that ruler skid. So people ask me sometimes, Mr. Mathis, can I use a marker for this? And I really resist that. Markers are really, really destructive to the beauty of your work. They bleed through your paper. You make mistakes with them. You can't fix them. It's just really... and a marker may not really mark over top of this waxy material that the colored pencils are made out of very easily. Okay, so now we just continue this process all the way across the piece of artwork, and then we're going to go back in the other direction. So I've got it here, and I'm going to go ahead and strike my line. I may have to make sure I maybe resharpen my pencil a bit, but we want it to land right between the squares if we can. And so it's important to just make 2, 3, maybe 4, as many passes with the pencil as it takes to outline that and get that nice dense mark. And you hold that ruler down like your life depends on it, so it doesn't go skidding around on your project. Okay, we're down to our last vertical line right here, and I may have to resharpen my pencil. It looks like it's landing right on the line. I would say you should test it first. I've got some experience, so sometimes I don't have to necessarily test it. I know when it's going to land on there. But other times, it's a surprise, so it's not good to be surprised at this part of the project. Okay, that was a nice dense outline there also. So now we're simply going to do the same thing in the other direction. We're going to find our line right there between the squares. See, just a tiny bit of it is showing. I'm going to hold that ruler down firmly, and in this case I'm going to stop right there where my period is at for the abbreviation for the letter, for the word ounce. I'm going to pick up over here on the other side of it. Now you got to hold this ruler down, I mean firmly, or have somebody hold it down for you if you trust them, and then get these outlines done. I'm thinking I would have liked to have used black now because the gray is kind of fighting with me a little bit. Okay, that is okay. It looks pretty good. We're just going to, I'm going to sharpen my pencil again, and we're going to continue on with the same operation here. We're almost finished. That is a wobbly gray. I think my pencil sharpener is getting dull, ladies and gentlemen. And when you've sharpened a pencil 100 times, sometimes the sharpener gets dull. And in this case, I'm kind of betting that's what's happened here. So I many times have to change blades on sharpeners for students. Okay, let's see if this works. Now here we're going to go back to finding that line just a hair below it, and then start making our markings. Hold that ruler down firmly. You got to kind of take several passes here with the colored pencil in order to get it to look, get that dense line that we're looking for. But if you hold the ruler down and press that pencil firmly up against it, then you'll be able to draw these very attractive, dark, dense, straight lines. And I'm even actually turning the pencil as I draw with it to keep that point on there. That looks very good. I better dust that a bit. I've got some residue showing up. Okay, one more. Find the line. So it's better to go good and slow. This is like the tortoise and the hare thing from Aesop's Fables, than to go fast and reckless. That looks pretty good to me. So it looks like it's going to be right on the line, so I'm going to just keep on going on. Oh yeah. So you got to lean on that ruler, and you want to be up against a firm surface when you do this, so you don't, the pencil doesn't snag on anything. And also, when you're near the edge of the paper, you probably need to draw off the edge of the paper rather than tearing it with the colored pencil, which happens very frequently. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So all of our letters are outlined. We clearly can see where one letter ends and the next letter begins. That's a good thing. I'm going to go back to my black colored pencil, and I'm going to sign it down here in the lower right hand corner, and I'm going to then date it with the date that it's finished on. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to use my first initial, my last name, so that people will know when this was made by who. Now, for your project, I'm going to have you date it. For this project and this video, instructional video, I'll simply just say I'm not going to date it right at this moment. But you should date your artwork as to when it was completed. Alright, there we go. I've got that written down there. The very last thing we're going to do is we want to flip our project over, and we are going to write on the back what it says. So if we flip it over here right side up, we go back to just to make sure that we've got the right message being spelled out. Where is this? There it is. We're going to be using, right now, an ounce of prevention is greater than a pound of cure. So you can actually write those words out if you'd like to. So we just go an ounce. That's what the OZ would be. If you want to abbreviate it, you put it down here for people. An ounce of prevention is greater than and some people would like to probably just put the greater than symbol down there. An ounce of prevention is greater than a pound, which would be this right here, of cure. Now, if I would have done that right, I'd have put it all in one string of letters out there, but I ran out of paper there, so that'll still work. So our message, an ounce of prevention is greater than a pound of cure. Okay, that makes pretty good sense to most people. Sometimes it's also a good idea to just circle these if anybody is going to want to know what that means. So we put that off to the side there. We look at our piece of artwork here. It's really quite good, and we will be grading that here pretty soon. I would say if I had to grade this myself, I'd probably put mine at about a 9.25, maybe a 9.5. It's got some opacity issues in places, but the drawing is good, and the piece of artwork is good as well. I'm pretty pleased with it. So I hope you got these kinds of results during this period of time when we've been making this project. And stay tuned. We will be grading it before too long. Alright, you all have a good day.